Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Information is King, Customizing and Creating New Markup Columns. This webinar is brought to you by Bluebeam and Applied Software. My name is Caitlin Dunn, and I'm pleased to be your moderator today. All right, here we go with the intro video. Hi, and welcome to this Applied Software webinar. We're glad you could join us today. Get more out of the webinar by clicking on the icons at the bottom of your screen. You can resize these. This button leads to resources. This button adjusts the volume. Just don't push this one. I'm watching you. Be sure to find Applied Software on social media and on our website, asti.com, where we'll empower you to discover what's possible. You can also find a complete schedule of upcoming events, on-demand webinars, and training on our calendar at asti.com/calendar. This is being recorded for your convenience. You'll be receiving an email with the recording link for future reference. And make sure to stick around. We'll answer questions at the end. See you there. All right, so as the video mentioned, you can find our schedule of upcoming events and webinars in our calendar, so make sure to check that out. And everyone, I am very pleased to introduce Rick Kremer. Rick is a certified Bluebeam instructor at Applied Software with years of experience in the industry. Thank you so much for joining us today, Rick. Take it away.
Thanks, Caitlin. Hey, everyone out there on the World Wide Web. My name's Rick Kremer, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm not going to go over just basically a little bit over my overview of my bio over here. Sorry. I'm a monthly host of Bluebeam webinars and talked at the latest XCon from last year. I'm also a Bluebeam Certified Instructor and Support Specialist here at Applied Software. So without further ado, let's just get right to it. Bluebeam markups and customizing your markup list. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and let me know when you see it. Caitlin, do you see my Bluebeam?
Yep.
Awesome.
All good.
All right, perfect. So you're probably wondering, all right, what exactly is the markups list? Today's session is going to be completely about how to customize the markups list down here below. And why do we use it? Well, first of all, if this is the first time using Bluebeam, Bluebeam is an application that runs on a Windows PC that allows us to create additional markups and information on top of an ordinary PDF, taking our regular PDF to what I consider PDF 2.0. The information down below in the markups list gives us the ability to track that information. So whether or not we're doing red lines or quantity takeoffs or whatever it may be, it's all shows up in the markups list. Think of it like an Excel spreadsheet, where as you start to gain information, all of that is captured down in the markups list. And a little bit later on, I'll show you how we can customize it and export it and really go through and create the markups list in a way that we want to create it. So for that, I'm actually going to do two things today. I'm going to go two different avenues. One is creating custom markups that will give us the ability to change the status and have the status change the color of our markups. So as an example, I have a drawing over here, and I'm going to go through and set up my review to go through and be able to set up custom statuses so that the ideal thing is if I'm redlining a set of drawings, I want the status to change color in the PDF as well as be tracked down below. So I'm going to show you all the setup that you're going to need to do ahead of time before getting to actually creating those markups. The second thing that I'm going to show you today is actually how to go through and create some custom columns. And in those custom columns, we're going to add some additional columns to go through and put in things like maybe responsibility, who's responsible for it, or even start to take a smarter way of calculating square footages. So as an example, I'm going to go through and we're going to create square footages for different types of carpets and automatically have Bluebeam create those markups and basically give us the cost per square foot automatically. without ever having to go to Excel. And then lastly, I'm also going to show you how to create those markups and customize a summary report. So let's go ahead and get started. First things first, in Bluebeam Review, the first thing that I need to do is set up a profile. I need to set up a profile for the way that I'm going to work, because everything that I'm going to do in the markups list by customizing it is going to be saved back to that profile. So we're going to set up a custom profile. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over here to Review and then go to Profiles. I'm going to select the starting profile that I want to work with. In this case, I'm going to start with Review Advanced. I'm going to go over here and go to Manage Profiles. Over here, I'm simply going to click Add. This is going to base my new profile on the profile that exists currently, which is the Review Advanced. This is an important first step because everything is going to be saved back to this custom profile. So I'm simply going to come over here and click Add. And over here, I'm going to say Rick's Custom Profile and hit OK. You just saw my screen flash real quickly, and that is now saved to this custom profile based on the advanced profile. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. By the way, that profile is something that you're going to want to typically save out somewhere outside of your computer or maybe somewhere on a stored drive, because if you ever have to reinstall Bluebeam Review, you're going to want to use that profile again. So next, we're going to go over here to Review and go to Preferences. Now, wait a minute, why is he going to Preferences, you might be wondering? Well, in Preferences, when we start to create a markup, anything over here in the author is going to be captured by the username. Now, if this is the first time you've installed Review, your username is going to take on the computer name. In this case, my computer name is Computer 1956. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and change this computer name, the username, to my name. So as I start to create my markups, it'll have my name. Now, one of the things that I always do is I'll put in my name, Rick Kremer, and the company I work for, ASTI. That way, when there's a markup created, that markup in the markups list will have my name associated with it. And more importantly, when it's sent out to someone, they'll say, oh, this is Rick from ASTI versus someone else. All right. The next thing that I'm going to do is there's really another thing that I always like to do when I'm customizing that is to go over here to Tools, Measure. And in the Measure category over here, when we start to do area calculations, if you use dynamic fill, I highly recommend going over here and reducing all of these. The fill size, and I'm going to go all the way down, and over here the boundary size all the way down as well. This will help us work better when we're working with dynamic fill. So trust me on that. And this is under Tools, Measure, and lowering the fill size. Basically, when we go through, we're filling an area with almost like paint. And if you've ever tried to pour paint out of a 5-gallon bucket, you know you want to do it really nice and slow, not to make a mess. We're going to do the same thing over here by changing the fill size and fill speed down to as low as possible. I'm simply going to hit OK. And now at this point forward, everything when I create a markup will show my name here under the author. Awesome. Okay, now we're going to go through, and in this case, I want to start to go through and create a custom markup for different statuses. And what I mean by that is typically what I've seen a lot of companies do is when they go over here and create a markup, and create a Cloud Plus markup, for example, and over here they're going to redline this area and say, this corner needs further detailing, whatever it is. Right? And I've seen a lot of customers go and create this and put it into a session or put it into a project or email it to someone, and then someone will come back and hit it with a highlighter, just kind of like an old-fashioned way of taking a red line and hitting it with a highlighter. What we're going to do is we're going to set up a status. So when we click on this and right-click, over here we have the ability to set the status to being to a certain review. And in this case, these are out-of-the-box review settings. We're going to create our own review settings. So when we change the status, the color of the review of the red line will change. In this case, we're going to have one that's going to be red, another one that's going to be green. So the idea is that it's redlined, The project architect will redline it, give it off to someone. They'll pick it up. By picking it up, they're going to click on it and change the status to, let's say, picked up. Then the third one is going to be back, and the project manager is going to verify it. So it's going to go from, let's say, red to green to blue. Okay, so how do we go through and set that up? Instead of using the highlighter, we're going to use the smart features of creating different statuses. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to status. Click on the manage status. What we're going to do is add a new current model state. When you first install Bluebeam Review, it's going to come with Review, Migration, QA, and QC. I've already done one for another customer called City Review. You have to create a new custom model state to have different states of review. All right, this will make sense. I'm going to go over here and click Add. Over here, let's call it Rick's Review. Go ahead and hit OK. In Rick's Review, I'm going to go through and add some states. Clicking over here, I'm going to add the first state. And the first state when creating a redline is going to be my default redline state. So I'm just going to call it redline. Color is going to be set, in this case, to red. This redline state, I'm going to go through and make sure that this is set up as default. So when someone is creating a redline, it'll always be in the state of being redlined. Then I'm going to add another one. Let's call this picked up. When someone picks it up, it's going to automatically change it from red, in this case, to, let's say, green. And I'll go ahead and give it this dark green over here. Then, when it goes back to the project manager, I'm going to add another one, and this has now been verified by PM. And this one is going to change it to blue. Awesome. Let's go back and just make sure everything's set up. Under redline, I'm going to click Modify. Redline should be red. After it's picked up, it'll be green. And then when it's verified by the PM, it'll be blue. Awesome. Now, at this point, this is important. I'm going to save this to the profile. You're going to save this over here back to the custom profile that we just created in the very, very first step. I'm going to go ahead and click Save to Profile and then hit OK. So let's see how this works now. When I start to go through, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Let's say I'm going through and redlining this set of drawings. Over here, I'm going to go through, and as the person creating the red lines, I'll go to Markup and click on Cloud Plus. And I'll write over here, Verify Handrail Heights. Create another one over here, Weather Impact Windows Needed. And yet another one. You get the idea. Panic bars needed here. All right. So as we start to go through and create these red lines, you should see that in the status area, not only does it say who created the red line, but it also say what's the current status. So as I start to go through and create these, I know that these are currently redlined and they need to be picked up. So let's say I'm going to send this over to Caitlin. Caitlin, you mind if I send this over to you theoretically so you can pick up these red lines? I'm going to say she's saying yes. Her microphone's muted. All right, so let's say she receives those. All she has to do is select the red line, right-click. When she picks up that red line, all she has to do is come over here, set status, go to Rick Review, and say it's been picked up. It'll automatically change it to that green. Not only will it do that, but if I go to the markups list and go to my columns and go to comments, add comments over here, I can see that who picked it up. Over here, I can see all the comments, and it's picked up by Rick Kremer. Here's the status. Now, what's nice about this is that as it starts to go through, we see the comments. We also see the current level or the current status of where we're at. We're going to have another one over here, for example, And that one has been picked up, and it's also been verified. So first it's going to be picked up. We can see over here through the status what's been picked up and what's using red lines. What's nice about this is managing a set of red lines is very easy. Using the filter list, I can simply enable the filter list, go over here, and under statuses, I can just look at the things that are still to be redlined. When I do that, you'll notice it grays out all of the others. And it just shows me the one red line that still needs to be picked up. Pretty nice. Now, let's say one of these have been verified. I'll go over here. Theoretically, if someone else is picking up that red line, they'll click Set Status, set the review to being verified, and the color changes. So this is a great way of managing a set of drawings very easily to distinguish over here what's been redlined, what's been picked up, and what's been verified. Now, this is a smarter way of hitting it with, instead of using the highlighter, using Bluebeam Review's tools to change the status level over here so we can see what's been picked up. Awesome. All right, on to the next little exercise. By the way, all of this information is now stored in the profile. So when we open up another drawing, we will have these custom statuses set up for any drawing that we use, using, by the way, not just Cloud Plus, but any markup in the markup list. We can change the status to being redlined, verified, or picked up. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and close that. And by the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Put those questions in the chat, and towards the very end, I'll be happy to answer them. All right, next, I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close that. The next thing that I want to do is I want to go through an exercise where if we were going through and getting a set of red lines from an architect, electrical, and a different discipline, we want to get those all into one set of drawings. In this case, I have over here a clean drawing, and then I have markups for my architect, my electrical engineer, and my mechanical engineer. I'm going to go through, and ideally, when I go through and open this, okay, ideally I would have emailed that to a bunch of different disciplines, and they are going to email me back the drawing. And in this case, I don't want to have to deal with 4 or 5 or however many different sheets. I want to combine them into one PDF. In Bluebeam Review, in the markups list, we're able to go through and combine and import the markups from these other drawings. So let me show you how easy that's going to be. In the markup list, I'm going to go over here to the markups area. I'm simply going to go through and import the markups. This is going to pull the markups from those other PDF sheets. I'm simply going to click on Import. Over here, browse to the file where I have imported markups, and I'm going to select all 3 of these files. I've selected the architect, the electrical, and mechanical drawings. This is now going to just pick up those markups and bring them in. I'm going to hit Open, and there they are. They're all brought in. Now, what's nice about this is, again, the markups list gives me the ability to go through and organize everything by subject. So automatically, it's organizing everything by subject so I can see all the electrical comments, the architect comments, and mechanical comments. Well, this is great. Now, one of the things that I want to do is I want to create a summary report. I want to be able to create a report that will show me where all of these markups are so I can better manage them. Built into Bluebeam, you have the ability to export out a summary report in different formats. Most of the time, it's either an Excel format or a PDF summary. When I go to the PDF summary, I have the ability to take all of that information and create it as a summary report. You have the ability to create a custom template file. Let me show you what it looks like when we're not using a custom template file, and I'm going to show you how we're going to make a custom template summary report sheet where our drawings, our summary report will look even more professional. I'm going to go ahead and use nothing, no template whatsoever, and I'm going to show you how we're going to create one from scratch. Over here, I'm going to select Append, and when I do that, this is going to go through. Actually, I'm not going to append it yet. I'm going to simply hit OK so you can see what this out-of-the-box vanilla summary report will look like. In this case, the summary report that will be sent out is this right here. And it's pretty standard, but it doesn't have any professional flair to it. It doesn't say anything about the company that I work for or anything of that nature. So I'm going to show you how we're going to take this summary report and make it even better. All right, so let me go ahead and close this. To do that, we're going to create a new 8.5 by 11 empty PDF, and then we're going to customize it so that it has our logo and it's going to look totally professional. All right, over here what I'm simply going to do is click New PDF, and I'm going to use an empty 8.5 by 11. By the way, everything that I'm doing over here is available to you in Bluebeam Review Standard, CAD, and Extreme. Awesome. So we have an empty piece of paper. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and bring in my logo. Over here, I've already captured my logo, and over here, I'm just going to go ahead and bring it in and place it right here. Next, I'm going to go through and give it a little bit of a flair. I'm going to go through and create something like this, not have it be filled. You know what? I'll have it be filled. Why not? Let's go crazy. And then I'm going to do another one over here, and it's not going to be filled, and it's going to have the area for my red lines right here. It even looks better already. So I'm going to go over here and simply save this as our summary sheet. So I'm going to call this Summary Sheet Custom RK. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And now to create that summary report using our custom sheet that we just created, I'm going to go over here and go to my summary report, PDF summary. This time I'm going to append this and hyperlink it to the current PDF, and you'll see why in just a minute. This will give me the opportunity to go through and find those red lines back in the drawing set. Now, under template, what I'm simply going to do is go through and create and import a new one. Over here, here's our summary sheet, and I'll select open. Now, in this dialog box, it's using my custom PDF sheet, and I'm going to give it the area where I want my markups to live. So I'm going to have them live right in this area. And I'll give it a little bit of a margin so it doesn't go all the way to the edge. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, from here, all I have to do is simply hit OK. Here comes the fun. Now, imagine having a whole set of drawings, 500 drawings, 100 drawings, or 5 drawings, whatever it is. You now have this summary report with your company logo, and it's really, really nice. Over here, it's not only organized by architect, in this case over here, when I take a look at this, each area has all the different disciplines. So the architect's markups are here. When I start to go through into the next sheet, the electrical comments are here, and so on. What's great about this is if you're ever wondering, well, where exactly is this markup in the drawing? All I have to do is click on this, and it hyperlinks right back to where that drawing is. Awesome. If we were to take a look at the whole thumbnails, you'll notice that my drawing summary report of my markups is tagged to the back end of this individual drawing. Now, all I have to do is if I wanted to email this to someone, it couldn't be any easier. All I have to do is simply click File and select Email. At this point, it's firing up Outlook, and now I have the ability to send this over to Caitlin so she can pick up these red lines. Isn't this great? I have the ability to really control the amount of markups and control the visibility and create a professional look when I create my summary report. All right, next, let's go through and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. The last thing that I want to do is how to create some custom markups. Now, over here, I'm going to go ahead and open up a sample drawing. For this area over here, I'm going to go through and open up an empty drawing. In this case, let's say I wanted to start to go through and create some custom columns. Actually, I've already created one here, and let me show you how I created that. In this case, if I'm going through and creating custom columns, I have the ability here to create custom columns by going to the Manage Columns list. Let me go ahead and delete this so I can show you how this was done. The idea is that in the markups list, out of the box, in the drop-down, when you go to columns, you have all the different type of out-of-the-box information that you can track in the markups list. Instead of using out-of-the-box markups, we're going to go through and create some custom columns for tracking different information. For example, if I wanted to go through and started to go through and create a custom column for, let's say, something has been ordered or field verified, we have the ability to add that information over here, and different types of formats can be used to track information. For example, we can have something that's text-based, where the user can type something in. We can also have a check mark. So let's say it's been ordered or delivered. It's been ordered, delivered, and installed. So one of the things that we can do is place, for example, a check mark. Let's go ahead and show that. I'm going to say it's ordered. I'm going to do another one that it's been delivered. And also have that be a check mark. And then another one over here for installed. And also have that be a check mark. And hit OK. Automatically, when I have a red line, if I have something that I'm trying to track, I can start to go through, and as that markup is being created, I can see that if it's been ordered, delivered, or installed. And all of those are toggles with check marks. Now, in this case, I want to show you how we're going to go through, and I'm going to create a custom tool set using, for example, new information that I want to add here. In this case, I'm tracking, as an example, square footages. And those square footages, I want to be able to assign, let's say, carpet 1, 2, and 3 to a known number. That number can then be added automatically as a custom markup. And not only as a custom markup, but a custom column that is formula-based. All right. First, let's go through and start to create custom square footages. First, I'm going to go over here and create a tool set. Go into tool chest, and you thought we were just doing markups list. We're actually going to get into the custom tool set as well. Over here, I'm going to create a new one over here, and I'm going to call this SF Takeoffs. Okay, and I'll go ahead and show that in all profiles and save that over here to my computer. All right, down at the very bottom, you'll notice that it's locked. So just like I teach every one of my classes, this is going to act like a drawer where we can customize our markups, but let's go ahead and unlock it by clicking here. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and save what I'm working on. Now, next, I'm going to start to go through and create a simple area measurement as a generic area measurement right over here. In this area measurement, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to customize this for different types of carpeting. Then I'm going to go through and create those different custom markups in the columns so that we can track the quantity and also the cost. All right, let me show you how easy this is going to be. First, let's set up this first one. I'm going to go over here, right-click, and go to its properties. In the properties, I'm going to give this a subject of flooring. And then the label is going to be CPT1. The fill color, for example, is going to be yellow, and I'm going to have it be highlightable, so it's transparent. Awesome. Next, I'm simply going to copy this a couple more times and then customize this for different types of carpet. Holding Control, I have the ability to create a duplicate of this very easily. I'll select it, and this one is going to be, for example, CPT2. Color for this is going to be blue. Next is the next one, CPT3. And you can see how we can kind of do this really easily and fast. For example, if I don't like that color green, I can make it a little bit less saturated. Awesome. Now we have CPT1, CP2, CPT3. Now we can start to track that information separately here in our areas. Now, what we want to do is we're going to go through and start to customize that information so that there is a quantity, there's a calculation for cost against that quantity. And we can have review go through and calculate that for us, ultimately sending that information out to Excel, for example. Over here, what I'm going to do is go back over to the Manage Lists. Next, I'm going to go over here to Columns, go to Manage Columns, and then go to Custom Columns. Before we did a check mark for something that might be ordered, delivered, or installed, we have the ability again to add custom information, and that can include different things. That can include not only a check mark, but a choice, a formula, a number, or text. What we're going to do is intelligently have our user be able to select different choices. And when we select choice, we're going to have this be carpet type. Okay, let me make sure I get that all. And then they're going to have different options for different types of carpet. I'm simply going to go over here and give them a predetermined list of different carpet types. Over here, this one, the first one is going to be CPT1. The subject is flooring. And then I'm going to assign it a value. So for our first flooring, it's kind of inexpensive. It's only 35 cents a square foot. I'll go ahead and hit OK. Let's add a couple more, and this one's going to be CPT2. Subject flooring. And I'm going to say this one is 85 cents a square foot. And then we're going to go through and add another one. This CPT3 is the most expensive one. And I'm going to assign a different value. And that one is going to be $1.35 a square foot. The user then will have the ability to select all these different options. Now, I'm using carpet as an example, but if you're an electrical engineer or running conduit, you can run, for example, different size conduit, different size piping, different objects that have different costs associated with them. Think of this as means. So you can start to go through and create different quantities for different objects that are predefined in this list. I'm simply going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go through and add another thing where I'm going to go through and add a formula. So now I have the ability to track that information, but I'm going to say purchased cost. And for that, it's going to be a formula. In the formula, I need to go through and calculate, in this case, the area, multiply it, in this case, by carpet type. Format over here is going to be currency, and I'll include that in the totals. I'll go ahead and hit OK. Let me go ahead and hide these over here, or better yet, I'm going to go through and bring in carpet type and bring it all the way over here to label. And go over here and bring in purchased cost. And bring in area over here. Let's kind of reorganize this. Now, in this case, when I go through and select these objects, I'm going to customize them so every time I use carpet 1, it's associated with carpet 1 type. I'll go over here to its properties. When I scroll down, now I have new information that's in the custom columns. Over here, I'm going to say that every time we use this, this is carpet 1. When we use this one is going to be carpet 2. When we use carpet 3, this one is going to be carpet 3. Let's just verify that. Carpet 1, carpet 2, carpet 3. All right, now let's add them to our tool palette. Our tool set over here then can be distributed with everyone, and it can be used over and over again. All right. I'm simply going to window around all three of these, right-click, add that to my tool chest, SF Takeoffs. By the way, if you're ever wondering about how do I get more information, how do I get training by this guy, feel free to reach out to us at bluebeam@asti.com, and we'll be happy to provide training and support for your needs using Bluebeam Review. All right, now over here I'm simply going to go through and delete these. Double click on these over here and change them to detail view. Now, this will give me the ability to use these over and over again for different projects. So in this case, let's say we're going through and I want to use CPT1. Over here, I can start to go through and use carpeting 1 and simply go over here and say this is going to use carpeting 1. This one right here also uses carpeting 1. And as I start to go through, it's giving me a total of how much that carpeting is going to be. 138.95 so far of square footage that's going to cost. Awesome. And this is all done automatically. You're probably wondering also about this little area right here. I'm going to lay that down by converting that to an arc. As I mentioned before, we have the ability to go through and create square footages using dynamic fill. In this case, what I'm going to do is use dynamic fill to help me fill in this area. I'm simply going to go through, start dynamic fill, and I'm going to use this paint bucket right here to go through and start to fill in this area. I love dynamic fill. Isn't that easy? Now, over here, I can start to go through and tell it that this is supposed to be carpet 3. Remember, it's our conference room, so it's the most expensive. I'll go ahead and click Apply, and then click Close. Now that information goes through, and it is calculated right here. So I can see that that carpet at $1.35 is going to cost me $868.05 for a total of $1,000 that I'm spending so far on my square footages. All of this can be tracked, and I can continue going on with creating different square footages, tracking all that information. The nice thing about this is, remember all of those custom columns that we created right over here? Maybe it's been ordered already. And now we can see that all of those have been ordered, but they haven't been delivered yet. The idea here that I'm trying to impress upon you is that the markups list gives us the ability to not only create markups, but to track that information more intelligently. Then, at the end of the day, we can simply go over here and export it out to Excel. The markups list not only gives us the ability to create amazing markups, but share that information in different formats. Like I showed you before as the PDF summary, we also have it in Excel. I'm simply going to go ahead and hit it OK, include everything, and hit OK. And in just a moment, it's going to open up Excel. And over here is all of that information that I have. Really amazing. All the information from my Bluebeam review PDF has now been brought into a higher level, bringing it into a summary report and also a report that I can use in Excel. So, what do you think, everyone? Did you learn something? I hope you did. Markups list is really such an amazing tool. Using the markups lists, we have the ability to go through and customize our markups. We also have the ability to enable the markups list in the filter list so that we can start to go through and determine different things that we're looking for. In this case, I can look at just different types of information by using the filter list. The filter list is incredibly powerful. All right, then also, if you wanted to turn off all your markups altogether, you can even go through and hide those markups. You can see what the drawing looks like at the end. Now, remember that drawing that we had, all those markups? Also, if I wanted to send those markups to someone and they're using Bluebeam, instead of sending them the drawing, I can also go through in the markups list, go to markups, and instead of importing, I can export those markups. Such a dynamic tool. Bluebeam Review really gives us the ability to take our ordinary drawings and elevate it to a whole nother level. Well, I've talked enough. Caitlin, how about back to you? Let's see if we have any questions from our audience.
That sounds good, Rick. All right, I'll go ahead and push this slide, the questions slide. Looks like we did have quite a few questions come in. Our first one is from Dwayne, who asks, can you explain what happens when you open a document that wasn't created with the new profile and the new status options won't show?
So opening up a new drawing, the status profile should show up automatically. That status profile, when we start to go through and create those custom statuses that I created over here, this has to be saved to the profile that you created. If you're just hitting save to the current profile and you're using one of the out-of-the-box profiles, those statuses will not be saved. You have to create a new what's called a model state. That model state will then tie to that custom profile. So you saw, Dwayne, at the very beginning, I created a whole new custom profile. That way, everything is new. So I created a custom profile, a custom model state that is now saved to that profile, and then the states themselves that are saved to the model, and then that model is saved to the profile. Again, if it doesn't work for whatever reason, please feel free to reach out to us at bluebeam@asti.com, and I'd be happy to help you afterwards.
Awesome. We have a next question from David. He asks, on the Cloud Plus markups, can you change multiple colors with the review status? Say cloud changes to red, cloud fill changes to yellow, arrow leader changes to blue.
That is a great wish list. No, unfortunately not. Right now, the way that it works, it's going to change the whole status, the whole markup. In this case, anything that's in the markup tool pull down can be changed color-wise, but it's going to change the whole color of that markup. It would be great, David, if we could do that. But I'll tell you what, one of the things that you can do is here in the Help menu is click on Make a Suggestion. And I tell you, the folks over at Bluebeam really take this seriously. When you go through and create a suggestion, if they have enough suggestions, that'll hopefully, with fingers crossed, show up in a future release. But currently, no, David, when we change that status, it changes the color. In that case, the cloud markup to everything being blue or everything being green. I like it, though. Good suggestion.
Awesome. Our next question comes from Bradley. He says, drawing is in, presumably, AutoCAD, markup is PDF. The process of addressing the markups is a manual transfer to the CAD drawing file. Can the Bluebeam markup be overlaid behind the CAD drawing for working coordination reference?
You know, I'm glad you asked that question. You can, in newer versions of AutoCAD, you can import PDFs. So what you can do is you can take that PDF that has all the red lines and link it in like an XREF and insert that PDF, stretch it, overlaid on top of your drawing, and that way you can see exactly what that red line is. You won't be able to change the status and everything like that because it's it's an image, right, as a PDF. But all the red lines that are created in Bluebeam, you can link in using Insert PDF in AutoCAD.
All right.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I agree. Next one comes from also Bradley. He asks, I understand how Bluebeam can be used to prepare quantity takeoffs. Can it be used for accurate area takeoffs calculated directly off the scaled PDF with the selected points snapped to PDF drawing points for accuracy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the nice things about Bluebeam Review is you don't need AutoCAD. You don't need some type of CAD application to take area calculations and have them be incredibly accurate. And when we zoom in on this area, we can start to go through and measure with area or poly lengths exactly what we need. And you'll notice, because it's a vector-based drawing, my cursor is actually snapping to where those lines are. So you can start to really go through and customize it wherever you want. If you accidentally click on something over here, for example, and you go, oh, wait a minute, I messed up, all you have to do is hit the backspace and you can go back and snap it to another point. This really gives you the ability to start to customize that. And at any point in time, you can always go back and readjust them. Or right-click and add another control point. By adding another control point, we can start to even customize it even more so. A lot of people will start to use dynamic fill like I did here on site plans when you're going through and creating a topography or calculating sidewalk or asphalt and it's nothing but curves. We can do dynamic fill and get it 100% accurate. When we start to go through and calibrate our drawing, that is going to give us the ability to have that level of precision. In this case, I've rounded everything to a full inch. And when you go through and if you want to make it even tighter, you can have it go to a quarter or whatever it is that you're trying to calculate. Typically, most people will find it half inch or a full inch rounding will suffice. Good questions.
Yeah, we've got a lot of good questions today. Our next question comes from Rick, who asks, can you move the profiles into sessions?
Can you move profiles in sessions? So that's a really good question. When working in a session, so for those of you who don't know what sessions are, Bluebeam gives you the ability to use what's called Bluebeam Studio. This gives you the ability to take a set of drawings, any file type whatsoever in a studio project, and upload them to the cloud, enabling others to work on them together. When you're working with a studio project, one person can check out a file, any file type whatsoever, mark it up and return it, like a public library book, checking it out, opening it up, returning it, and putting it back on the shelf. In a studio session, Sessions gives you the ability to utilize PDFs, and those PDFs, you can have multiple people working on them at the same time. When working within Sessions, all your customization, so your profile settings, everything that is your status settings, specifically any of the status settings in the markups list, those have to be created ahead of time before you start the session. Once you start the session, you'll have the ability to change the status of different objects to different status degrees, but you can't customize your markups list while you're in a session.
All right. We have a similar question from Ben, who asks, can a profile be saved to a shared folder location and multiple people have access to that profile?
Oh, absolutely. I'd highly recommend that. Ben, that is a great question. So when we go to profiles, if I wanted to share this custom profile with the rest of my company, I'm going to go over here. First of all, when I start to go through and make any changes, every now and then you want to go through and save the profile. What this does, it goes through and kind of takes a look at your screen to see, well, did I drag one of these icons to somewhere else? I'm going to capture everything that Rick has done currently to update that profile. So any customization to the tool set, any customization to the status is all now saved back to that profile. Again, it's important to save your profile. That makes sure that you've saved the current settings the way it is. Then when we go to manage profiles, you have the ability to save that somewhere. Now, let's say for argument's sake, Ben, you had saved that profile over here to your, you'd click on export and you export that to your server, right, where everyone has access to it. Everyone else in the company can simply select import. And when they import that profile, they'll have all the tools that you created, all the statuses that you changed, and the whole customization of Bluebeam. Again, you can export it. You're going to want to include dependencies. And then when you're ready to have everyone bring it in, just click import.
Awesome. Our next question comes from Stephen, who asks, dynamic fill is not finding the edge of room and is bleeding into other rooms. What should I do?
Okay. So sometimes when you go through and you use dynamic fill, Ben, that's a great question. Dynamic fill will start to go through, and the reason why I slow down the pour, it looks at the edges of the lines. And one of the things that we can do is if we disable the line weight, you see how it's really thin right here? Think of it as a little tiny thread that's on the ground. When you're pouring paint, it's going to go over that little thread very easily. What we want to do is not disable line weights, but you want to have line weights so now that it's thicker. Now it's a rope instead of a thin line or a thin string. So when we're pouring paint slowly, it'll bump against that thicker line. Now, when I do a dynamic fill, it's going to basically start to pour outside of the area. Now what I mean by that, see how it's pouring outside over here? It's because it leaked, for all practical purposes, outside the door because there's no threshold. What you need to do is create a boundary. So before you start creating your area fills, you're going to create this boundary. This creates an invisible boundary. And I'm just going to add one here and add another one here. And that purple line right there that shows up tells Bluebeam, I want you to stop right there when creating the area fill. Now when I create that area fill and I start to go through, see how it stopped at that door? Now I'm done. Over here I want to do the same type of carpeting. I'll go over here and start and place it. The key is having it go nice and slow and also creating those boundaries. Now from here, I can simply go over here and say that this is going to be carpet 2 and click apply and close. And now that's carpet 2 and it's all calculated. That's going to cost $361.
Nice. We have one last question from Susan. She asks, can you replace a sheet in your PDF with a sheet from another PDF that is already open? It seems to always take you to a file location to replace a page.
So when you have another drawing open, the way that you typically go through, you have the ability to go through, if you're replacing the sheet, there's a process to go through and go over here under Tools to, Document, and go do a slip sheet. This gives you the ability to bring in that other drawing. And, well, I guess the question back to you, Susan, would be is, do you want to show that updated drawing and then have this revised drawing be the current one and then all your markups bubble up to the top? If so, you can do a slip sheet. You can also go through at any point in time, if you want to have them side by side and just insert another sheet, you can right click in the thumbnails and go through and insert that page. So when you insert that page, you're literally inserting another drawing into your drawings over here. But typically what I find is when you're going through and creating a revised drawing, you're going to utilize what's called slip sheeting. And for that exercise, you're going to typically go through and it does point to that other file.
Well, perfect. It looks like that's all the questions we have for today. So would you be good with me going ahead and wrapping it up, Rick?
I think so. And everyone, thank you so much for your questions. Again, everyone, if you have questions afterwards, you're watching this and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I have a question. Please feel free to reach out to us at bluebeam@asti.com. Myself or my colleagues would be happy to get back to you with any questions that you may have regarding Bluebeam Review. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Caitlin, for your time.
Yeah, thank you too, Rick, and everyone out there. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you spending your time with us, and we trust that it was meaningful and impactful for you and your business. We look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.